Welcome everybody to our New Testament in our year session. We are looking at Acts chapter 19 through 23, I believe. Thanks for joining. Let's begin with prayer. Let's pray. God of grace, we are so grateful that you gather us here at this time. We open our hearts and minds to listen to your scripture at the same time to each other's stories. Inspire us and guide our hearts so that we may say encouraging words and caring words to one another, and really pay attention to the details of your word, how you move in and through those people at the same time, in and through us in our lives, so that we may be encouraged at the same time, equipped to do the work of building your kingdom here on earth. In Christ's name, pray. Amen. Okay, all right. As usual, let's begin with comments, questions. Right, we are covering a lot, and there are, I will say, a lot of ups and downs. Okay, so Fran, you have something to say?
I do, and it's kind of really just more a general statement of our whole study together.
Okay.
Because my last few days have been really stressful. And my husband and I are going on a trip for a family wedding on Thursday. So even though it's a good thing, there's stress, right? So there's always a lot of things to do. And I woke up this morning, we're going, I'm going to have to do this related to trust. And then I go, Acts 23. So I have been keeping on top of that, right? And it's like, well, that's just separate. That's not something that, I have to do and don't have time to do. I realized I just craved that discipline of scripture. And and sure enough, when I got to it, it was very calming for me. So then I also took a little nap. So and so I feel really good. So I am so thankful to you, Pastor Jeanette, all the local pastors that were on this amazing journey, not just to read the New Testament in a year, but to share with this wonderful group that we're going to get so bonded, and share so much. So I just wanted to appreciate everyone here, and just look forward to that. And also realizing I just keep everything in perspective, right? So, and then reading about all the stuff I have to do, it's like, oh, Paul, oh, so it's been wonderful, and I think it's a good habit to start, and I think we'll all continue.
All right, thank you. That Oh my goodness, that made my day. because because we've been covering Gospel of Luke, and now we are covering the Acts of the Apostles. So almost at the end of Acts. It's like, I guess, like 10 weeks. And it can be tiring. But thank you. That's really encouraging. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Paul, I see you got haircut, right?
I'm sorry, what?
Got haircut. You got your haircut.
Oh, a haircut. Yeah, I did.
You look great, sir.
I figure, once every 6 months I should get it cut, whether I want to or not. I actually trimmed my beard a little bit too, so there you go.
You look great, sir. Okay, all right. Who else? Anybody, please.
Yeah, I just thought this is kind of interesting because Paul is just moving around a lot.
Yes.
And I got out I have a Bible that has Bible maps in it. So I said, I'm going to look at the Bible maps. I still couldn't make out, trip 1, trip 2, trip
That's
3.
right.
He's just all over the place.
That's right.
It's everywhere.
That's right.
Pretty amazing when you think about it.
That's right. Guess why? Guess why? We had a question and answer in the earlier session, why people are traveling a lot. Not only Paul, but also Peter, right? Why in Acts of the Apostles? And if you think about it, in Luke's gospel, Jesus also travels to Jerusalem, right? Yeah, in Luke, in particular, that story is very intensive. Why?
Well, to spread the gospel, I guess, would be the main
Yes,
reason.
definitely. Right. Good point. Right. They are not having a tour, right?
Which of the trips is he on now? I'm not clear.
I think it's his last trip, his third mission trip. I think.
Because it's not clear when I read it which trip he's on.
No. It's even now, even to me, it's not clear. It's like, well, I don't know. So,
I looked up some maps and it made it look like what? There's 4 trips. There's 3 and then Rome.
Oh yes, I think so. Yeah, 3 and then he goes to Jerusalem and then to Rome. Yeah.
But I didn't know where we were now.
Yeah. So he's in Ephesus. He's in Ephesus, and then he's going to Jerusalem.
And he spent quite a long time in Ephesus.
Yes.
Yeah. And what, like 3 months or something like that?
Yes.
As long as he ever spent in any one place, as far as I could tell.
Right. So I think people, the scholars think that Paul may have written his letter to Lumens in Ephesus. Anyway, I mean, it's like he wrote one of his letters in Ephesus. Yeah, because he stayed there a long time. Right.
Was that when Paul was staying with Priscilla and Aquila, or was that a different time?
That I don't really know. I'm sorry.
He stayed with them for quite a while too, as I recall.
Excuse me?
I think Paul stayed with Priscilla and Aquila for quite a while.
Oh yes. He did. Yeah. Right. That's
Well,
right.
I also in kind of Acts and 20 when Paul was speaking to the Ephesian elders, I was really moved at the end of that chapter where they were crying and they knew he wasn't gonna come back, and it was very moving, and Paul's journey's a little bit similar to Jesus too, but when you look back at Luke, there were so many people that didn't get it. They were like, what? Even though Jesus was very clear about this is what's happening. Mm-hmm. So it was very moving to understand the Ephesian elders knew what was happening, and they were very grief-stricken and sad.
That's right.
So it was lovely at the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
I liked the part where the silversmiths and the other craftsmen are all shook up. They're going to lose their work because they can't make statues.
Yes.
It sounded like something that could happen now.
All about money.
Right. Money is always people's priority for many, right?
I question one person because of the fact that in the Roman Catholic Church, and more so than most Protestant churches, they do have a lot of artifacts, like Jesus hanging on the cross, and they sell those. And I just thought, how was that so different from what they just switched from making their own gods to, making these? And I say, well, if you say that it says in the Old Testament that we don't know what God looks like, and so we shouldn't make a monument to him, and yet they make monuments to Jesus, and Jesus is also God. So it seems like that's blasphemy right there, but. That's just my own thought.
So what do you think? Because if you think about Western art, especially painting, its majority is religious art, right? Think about it. Yeah, whether it's painting or sculpture, it's all religious. When in fact, the Bible, Old Testament in particular, said, it's like don't create image. Idol means like image, right? But we humans, we've been doing that for centuries. How come?
Well, a lot of the paintings, as I recall from when I was in Italy, yeah, a lot of them did have, they had pictured what they thought the Christ would look like, but a lot of them were just, I mean, I guess maybe most of them were. Now that I think about it, you got the Last Supper, you've got Mary with Jesus at her at his death and all of that. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Why we have to do that?
Right.
The art tells a story for many of those people who could not read or write.
Oh, good point.
They could see that, because when you think about the cave drawings in France, they were those line stick figures were telling a story of how the people survived and how they lived their lives. And I think, and especially the church, that was the way most artists, in those early centuries made a living, because the church supported them and commissioned a lot of the works.
The Catholic Church.
Yes.
I agree with Penny, and I think, like in the Old Testament, it wasn't so much not to make art, but not to worship idols. So it's like, don't worship worship God, the unseen God. But I think the art can help us to do that, hopefully, instead of the other way around. Instead of just worshiping, I think they used to actually worship the idol, like the calf or the whatever. That's my understanding.
A very good point. I mean, it's like, even, in Islam, they don't paint something, right? They don't have, paintings or drawings of somebody, right? So what do they have? Right?
Leaves and flowers and script.
Right. We call it like calligraphy or something. Am I?
Oh, calligraphy.
Calligraphy. Right. So I think it's like human universal. We want to, express ourselves. We want to, describe something sacred. In a way, we can communicate at the same time, express our highest devotion through art. Yeah, it's just inevitable. So, okay, David.
So I was very curious why they were making silver statues. Remember, when the Bible says something very specific, there's usually a story behind it.
Okay. I'm afraid I may not have an answer to that.
Because gold was too expensive?
So
I think
apparently there was just outside of Ephesus was this main big temple. I mean, it was like people pilgrimaged from all over the place to go to this particular temple of Artemis. And the guy who tries to calm down the crowd, because they were getting all upset that they weren't going to be able to sell their figurines and stuff. The guy says, you don't have to worry. We are the keepers, the holders of the gift from heaven, or whatever the expression was. And there's some speculation that this original idol of Artemis was not made by a person at all. It actually was an oblong-shaped meteor that came to the ground. And the pictures of this particular figurine don't particularly look like much of anything. I mean, it's kind of roughly oblong shape, and with a little imagination, you could say it's maybe a person. And so they set up this temple around this particular object, and then they would create the little figures of this, and then as people came to worship at the temple or whatever, then they would buy these little figures as a way to sort of say, I've been here, been there, done that. I got the T-shirt. Well, I got the idol.
Nowadays, I have a picture, right?
Yeah,
on Instagram. Okay,
with the phone. But keeping with the space theme a little bit. So remember, those of us of this age remember the space program back in the 60s and the 70s, and landing on the moon was called the Apollo missions. Apollo was the brother of Artemis, and the new space missions that are going to go to the moon are called Artemis.
Oh. Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's right. I hadn't connected that though.
So full circle on that one. But anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Figurines. Okay, here you go.
Okay. Wow. A lot of good information there. It's like I didn't know that much in detail. Only thing it's like one thing we need to remember is that the Temple of Artemis at the time, there was, I think, one of 10 or 7 wonders of ancient antiquity. That temple was huge. Very, very famous.
Well, there was 7 wonders of the world. Is that what you're referring to?
I think so. But then it's like some things were destroyed later. So yeah, 7 wonders of the world. Yeah, I think so. It was probably one of them. Right. Okay. Right. So they didn't like they didn't like it when Paul says like, God doesn't live in the temple made by hands, human hands. Okay. Okay. Right. Anybody else? Okay, Fran.
Yeah, just a quick thought kind of about Western art too. And of course, you're going to have any pictorial representation of your culture, right? So I sometimes struggle with Jesus or God, where everyone's white and male, like very white. So, if you read the Bible and believe, and Jesus walked the earth in the Mideast at a time, it's going to be very much darker. It'll be darker. and I always thought, like, if it was a more authentic representation, maybe we would be kinder to people. It's just something that I've thought about. It's just all these white men that were. But anyway.
I wonder how we would react if the stained glass windows in our church miraculously turned into Asians and Africans and.
I would love that. That would be fun. Well, yeah, I vote for it.
What do you think, guys? People?
Well, it's not very realistic. Most of particularly the pictures that are made for Sunday school rooms and things like that are not very realistic. Maybe they are now because I haven't taught Sunday school for a few years, and those things could have changed. But they certainly weren't somebody that came from that area. Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Well, the art was being done by Italians, and they were making them look like,
Italian.
People say we create gods in our own image, and
that's right.
I think they were kind of doing that same thing when they were doing their paintings. They were saying, well, he must have looked like us. Right. And that's where they didn't think about, he was Jewish, so and he was from, he had to be a lot darker than we're drawing him, but they probably couldn't have sold their paintings if they would have done it that way. So
that's true. Right. So that's right. Okay. So here is my thought on that. Finding historical Jesus, it's impossible. In history, a lot of people try to do that, and we just can't. We just cannot find historical Jesus. So, Arthur Spitzer. Arthur Spitzer, remember?
Yeah.
Who won the Peace Prize? Nobel Peace Prize, right?
Spitzer.
Right. So he was a theologian. He was a philosopher. He was master organist. He was a great musician. He was everything. But he was deeply, deeply devoted Christian. And he studied those. So in his time, like in Europe, a lot of people invested their time and energy to a quest for historical Jesus. A lot of people tackle that issue to find out who Jesus was historically. So he wrote his book titled Quest for Historical Jesus, and his conclusion is this: whoever tries to write historical Jesus, the image they came up with is the image of not historical Jesus, but image of who? Whose face?
Themselves, probably.
Yeah, your face. Not the face of Jesus, but
yeah, exactly.
The author. And we, as a human being, we cannot get out of that. Sorry. Because, you know, we are limited. We are context bound. So whether white people describe Jesus as white man, whether Black people describe Jesus as a Black man, as Asian guy like me describe Jesus Asian guy, doesn't matter to me. Because that's you know, we are bound, we are limited, and try to enforce, you know, my image, what I think Jesus should be, and try to enforce that image into others' minds. This is the real historical Jesus. Don't buy into that, please. Don't, because history has proven it's wrong. No, no. This liberal people say Jesus is this, you know, and this conservative people say, fundamental people say Jesus is this.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just stick to the...
Do you think that cloth that they've done all those studies on, that supposedly had his face on the cloth, do you think that's for real?
Oh, no, I don't think so. No.
The Shroud of Turin?
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I don't buy it. Okay, that, you know, that's how I approach it.
They found out it wasn't. It wasn't even in the same years as Jesus. It was a good.
I didn't realize that.
Fake. Yeah.
But it looks just like it.
Okay, so my question is this: what difference does it make?
I agree.
Any difference? Doesn't make any difference. The more important issue is whether we are really going to follow him, no matter how extreme he is, right? We studied him; he's quite hardcore. Yeah? I mean, are you still going to follow him? So that's the issue. No matter it's like how whether he's white or Black or brown, for me, sorry, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, right. The question is, do you love him? That's the real question. Do you love him to the point where you want to commit your life to him, to follow him, no matter how difficult it is? That's
I think if you went to Jerusalem now, you'd find people that looked all kinds of different ways.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right. Good.
People have moved there from all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. All right. So, but at least I can say Jesus was a Middle Eastern male. Okay. Right. Let's end that. Okay. What else?
What else is I'm thinking people in that time, everyone was smaller. And so we think of perhaps somebody our size, what most of us are, but that's probably not how he was. Everybody was smaller.
Small. Very small. That's right. Yeah. Even I think it's Julius Caesar Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. Yeah. I think he was smaller than me. Yeah. So yeah.
Everybody was smaller.
Yeah. People at that time, they were not that tall. Okay.
Yeah, there's some sort of a Bible verses. I'm trying to have it come to mind, but I'm not going to remember it. But where Jesus is described as being smaller stature, more like King David, or who was also, I think, considered to be smaller than normal Jews at the time. But I couldn't tell you what verse that was from.
Oh, I don't recall. Okay, right. But he's from Nazareth. Yeah, he was not from Jerusalem, and it's like he was. Maybe it's like not well fed. Okay, right. Let's move on. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question about Paul wanted to get back to Jerusalem for Pentecost.
Yes.
Now, this is a Christian thing. I mean, this didn't exist as far as the Jews. It happened like 50 days after the resurrection or something.
When did they start? Exist for the Jews? Huh? There was a Pentecost for the Jews.
There was?
Yeah. So
because it had something to do with Passover or something.
Yeah. So
there's two Pentecosts.
Yes. Yes. So Christianity at the time when the Bible was written was mainly a Jewish religion.
Right.
Right.
So that's why I was wondering what was Pentecost for the Jews, and I couldn't find anything on that when I did a quick search.
Oh, yeah. So Pentecost.
I mean, I know what Pentecost is to us.
What
was it to the, and when did they start celebrating it?
Yeah, yes. So Pentecost, so the 5 books of Moses, how do we call it? Pentateuch. Penta means 5. So Pentecost. So 50 days. So after 50 days, so there was an event, and after 50 days, they call it a Pentecost. So what's the first date?
Well, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, you're saying 50 days after that? Is that 50 days after the Last Supper?
Yeah, near, right. Yes. So from Jewish perspective, Passover. Yeah, Passover. I think that's it.
I think there's the thing that happened for the Jews is that was when Moses handed down the 10 Commandments.
That's right.
And that was called Pentecost?
No, it was called Shavuot.
Excuse me?
Shavuot.
Oh, okay. So in Hebrew.
Yeah.
So there are 2 things. So 50 days is that's when they celebrate Pentecost because of the 2 reasons. First is that's the day that they give sacrifice to God after harvesting their first fruit. That's the first reason. And more important reason, which is the second reason, is as John said, that's 50 days after they coming out of Egypt, I think, right? So Passover, right? That's when they got out of Egypt. So after Passover, 50 days later, they received the law from God on Mount Sinai. That's why they celebrate Pentecost. Okay, Penny?
Where does the piece about God directing his children to paint their door posts with a sacrificial lamb, and their child would not die, but the Egyptians died, and that was the final straw that made Pharaoh say, okay, you guys get out of here.
That's right. That's Exodus.
And that's the I always thought that was the Passover.
That's the Passover.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Right. Yeah, because
the Passover was every year, though.
Right. Then
it's celebrated every year, yeah.
That's right. Angel of death passed over.
Right.
Yeah, the house with the blood. Okay, right.
It was during Moses.
Excuse me?
It was during Moses.
Yes.
Yeah.
When he went to I forget the king's name. Actually, I think it was his stepbrother.
Aaron.
And he told him, if you don't let my people go, the firstborn of everyone will die.
That's right.
And then they went around and told everyone, kill the firstborn lamb, spread the blood on the door. And when the angel of death comes through, your firstborn will not be killed.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's the story, right? So that's the biggest holiday or festival among the Jewish people, right? Good. And Jesus died as our Passover lamb, right? Right. That's why John the Baptist, as soon as he sees Jesus, see the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Okay. Right. Okay. All right. No more comments? Then I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Okay. All right. How about we take a look at chapter 21, 27 through 36. This is part of my dissertation. Okay. Okay. This scene really captured my mind. Yeah. So, okay. Delphine, do you have a Bible?
Yes. Did you want me to read all that?
Yes, chapter 21, verses 27 through 36.
Okay. When the 7 days were drawing to a close, some of the Jews from the province of Asia who had caught sight of Paul in the temple incited all the rabble and laid hands on him, shouting, "Men of Israel, help, help, this man who is teaching everybody everywhere against the people and the law and this place. Moreover, he has also brought Greeks into the temple. He has desecrated and polluted this holy place." For they had previously seen Trophimus, the Ephesian, in the city with Paul, and they supposed that he had brought the man into the temple, that is, into the inner court, forbidden to Gentiles. Then the whole city was aroused and thrown into confusion, and the people rushed together. They laid hands on Paul and dragged him outside the temple, and immediately the gates were closed. Now, while they were trying to kill him, word came to the commandant of the regular Roman garrison that the whole of Jerusalem was in a state of ferment. So immediately he took soldiers and centurions and hurried down among them. And when the people saw the commandant and the troops, they stopped beating Paul. Then the commandant approached and arrested Paul and ordered that he be secured with 2 chains. Then he inquired who he was and what he had done. Some of the crowd kept shouting back one thing and others something else. And since he could not ascertain what the facts because of the furor, he ordered that Paul be removed to the barracks. And when Paul came to mount the steps, he was actually being carried by the soldiers because of the violence of the mob. For the mass of people kept following them, shouting, "Away with him, kill him."
Okay, right, thank you. Right, so can you picture that image? Right, it's a violent mob trying to kill Paul.
Yeah.
Right. Remember
sorry to say.
Right. Remember how it all started?
Well, it's all started because he was preaching in the temple some ideas that they didn't believe in. They wanted him beaten, yeah.
Right. So those Jews from Asia, so diaspora Jews, so they came and they knew what Paul was preaching, the content which they don't agree with. Right. So they spotted Paul and they did something. So they instigated people, right? So see how they do it. Verse 28, "Men of Israel," they yelled, "come and help us. This is the man who has been teaching everybody everywhere against our people, our law, and this place." And this place is what?
So in those days, you couldn't go in the temple unless you were the right, you know, from the right place or whatever.
So this place here means this temple. Okay.
So not everybody could go in there.
So you got to be Jew. You got to be a Jew, Jewish.
So it's like they weren't trying to convert anybody. Like, come to our temple and join our service, or you're invited, or
no. That's very Christian thought.
Illusion.
Yeah, that's Christian. You're talking very Christian. Jewish people, no. Remember what I said last time? Salvation for Jewish people, it's earthly, but then it's like they don't really need salvation because they are elected. They are chosen. Yeah, they are chosen.
They're chosen, so they don't want to invite anybody else to be chosen.
No, you are chosen because you are born Jewish.
Well, you have to have the right mother, right?
That's right. That's right.
You can't convert to Judaism, though, right? I mean,
yes, you can convert to Judaism.
The Old Testament.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. But that doesn't make you a Jewish.
Oh.
So that's
it's because he was in the inner temple, and not he went into where the high priests were supposed to go. Not stayed outside where the other guys.
Okay, let me clarify. So the place only high priest can go in is holy place.
Holy of Holies.
And then Holy of Holy, the almost inner place, that's the great high priest can go how many times in a year? Only once. Okay. So Paul didn't go in that deep. Okay. But then he was in the inner court, meaning it's like Jewish section. And these Jews from Asia, they thought this guy brought a Gentile into that inner court, which is true or not?
True, yeah.
Which is not true.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, which is not true.
Well, it's not true.
It's not true.
Bring a Jew in there. He didn't bring Greeks in there.
He didn't bring Greeks into that quarter.
The Greek couldn't come in there, right?
No. Gentiles cannot go in there. So there are court of Gentiles. So the thing is, temple has many sections. Okay. So court of Gentiles, court of women. See? Yeah, so those layers. Okay. It was there.
The other thing, can I say one tiny thing?
Sure.
What drives me crazy is like they're saying he spoke against the law, but like Jesus said he came to fulfill the law. And it's That's right. Paul wasn't preaching against the law. He was trying to fulfill it,
Right.
So I think they lied.
Right.
Make people mad at him.
Yes. So that's where I'm getting at. So the first thing is this man teaching everybody everywhere against our people. Is that true?
No.
Not against the Jews. So how about against our law, against the law of Moses? Has any law, has Paul ever broken the law of Moses?
Oh, he did say that.
No.
Okay. Paul skip it.
Well, he did say that, or maybe this was Peter that said that God wanted to accept everybody, not just Jews. But they didn't. But these people did not have to follow the laws of Moses. They could be a part of the group, but I said there's four things they have.
Yes.
They didn't have to be circumcised for one thing.
But then that doesn't really. So remember the decision made in Jerusalem Council? Jewish people, do they keep the law after believing Jesus?
Yes.
They just keep the law. Gentiles, do they keep the law?
No.
Why? Because they are not Jews. They are Gentiles. Their identity doesn't change. They are Christian, but they are still non-Jewish, so they don't get They don't keep the law. They don't need to keep the law.
Jewish when did this term Christian ever show up anyway? I mean, I don't see it in the Bible anyplace.
Christian, right?
Yeah, so when does that show up? I mean,
so the thing is, the word Christian is it's only from Acts of the Apostles.
Is that word in the Acts of the Apostles the word Christian?
Yeah, they are called Christians. I think in Antioch or somewhere. Right. Even the way, remember?
The way, yeah, the way.
They are
followers
called
of the way.
Yeah, followers of the way. That's Lucan term, only in Luke and Acts. So in Acts,
I also found it interesting that many times they call all the followers disciples in this book, where I had originally thought the disciples were the 12.
Oh.
And but in this book they call the converts disciples.
Yes. Yeah, those who believe in Jesus. Right. Disciples. Right. Okay. Right. So let me so remember what happened before? So Paul comes to Jerusalem finally, and then he was welcomed by Jewish Christian brothers and sisters, and then he got interrogated. We hear this news that you are saying to Jewish people, you better abandon Jewish law. And Paul says, no. And they asked Paul to purify himself and pay for the people under the vow, meaning Nazarene vow. Remember, Nazarene vow, you don't get to cut your hair, right? So he goes into the temple, he purified himself because he's from outside, right? Coming to Palestine and Jerusalem. So he purified himself as a diaspora.
What does that mean?
So he's a diaspora Jew.
What does he do to purify himself? What does that mean?
So, it's like Jewish people, they need to keep the law, right? They shouldn't associate themselves with Gentiles. But then if you are coming outside Palestine as a diaspora Jew and coming into Jerusalem and coming into the temple, you need to purify yourself. There is a ceremony you have to go through to purify yourself for 7-day purification. Right. Detail, I don't know. Okay. So
you don't know either. Okay. I don't understand. What the heck are you doing for 7 days?
Yeah. Detail.
Are you praying all day, or are you tubbing?
Right.
Washing?
It has to do with washing your feet and they have a special bath that you go into. You bathe in it and you wash all the dirt off before you go into the temple, because think about it, you've been in the desert for God only knows how many days with sandals. You're not really that clean. So they had a purification ceremony so that they could clean themselves and then go into the temple clean.
Okay, so they have to wash for 7 days.
Okay, so that
I don't know if it's 7 days.
Yeah, that's 7 days.
I just know that they do have to bathe. They do have to clean. They do have to, probably they have a special robe they have to wear, because they couldn't wear the clothes they were riding the horses on. It was different back then.
Probably special foods and prayers, and then I'm sure there were prayers of penitence, and
you probably had to pay for all of this business too.
Right. So, and he was paying for himself and 3 others. Right. So
it's all about
what
money.
chapter are we in for that? Where this is?
Chapter 21. Chapter 21. Right. So that's what happened right before the text we just read.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. So by the time he came out of the temple, he was the pure as he can be. Let's put it that way. Right? As a Jewish person. Right. And this guy's accusing Paul being against his people, being against the law. In fact, he kept all the law, right? He kept himself purified. And then this guy saying, this guy is against this place, against the temple, by bringing a Gentile into the temple, which is true or not?
Not true.
Not true. So it's false accusation, right? But this accusation it's interesting because this guy is against our people. So what kind of label does he produce? He is a traitor. He's a traitor. He's a betrayer of our nation. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but false accusation is against the commandments.
That's right. It's a false accusation, but
yeah.
What I'm trying to say is we need to follow their thought process. What kind of label this false accusation produce? Right? Then second, this guy is against the law. So what kind of label does he produce? Lawbreaker, which is holy, law. And then this guy is against the temple by bringing a Gentile into this temple. It's a temple defiler. It's a blasphemy. Right? So false accusation and label. So where do we see those kind of stuff today?
Where do you not see that?
Can you say that again?
Where do you not see that sort of thing today?
So
watch the news for about 8 minutes and you get plenty of it.
That's right. That's right.
Politicians, anybody in the government, Medicare, anybody that has our life in their hands. Because back then, the high priests were actually the ones that were dirty. They were not doing the right things. And that's why God got so mad, was because, hey, you're using my temple for something that I didn't want you to use it for. And that was the big blow up. And that's why there's no temple. There's no more temple there. It's a wall. And it's sad that all those people got so dirty, corrupt, just kind of like our government. They go in making $100,000 and they come out millionaires. There's a problem.
Right.
And they run our life.
Right. So things happen in the past. We still do, right? Okay. Right. So, and after that, you put out those labels, and what happens? People are upset, and this mob attacks Paul, right? And they begin beating him, right? This mob mentality. So we see those things. Where? We have seen those things where?
All over.
All over, right?
Yeah, January 6th.
January 6th.
Yeah, exactly. September 11th and January 6th.
Yes. And how about the looting and rioting after George Floyd's death? The same thing, right? No different.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not that I'm just
there's still bad looting.
Yeah, not that I'm saying his death is like, is the right thing. No, hell no.
No, people get angry and upset, and then they just other people join them, and it gets out of control.
That's right.
And Paul got pretty much beaten everywhere he went.
That's right.
Either that or he ran away.
That's right. That's right. So
he must have been one tough cookie.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Remember that
anytime you go to some big event, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, it seems like anymore you have to be really aware of your surroundings,
right.
And anything that might happen. Unfortunately, you really have to be aware of your surroundings.
Right. Because like you don't know how these people will turn into an angry mob, right? Okay. Now the question is, where else do we see those mob mentality?
Online.
Online. Good. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So online, how come?
In the schoolyard.
The schoolyard. So in a mob context, in a crowd setting, why do people act such a way? It's much like internet. Right?
Anonymity.
Groups, people act different in groups than they do as individuals.
Their identity.
And sometimes, yeah.
Go ahead,
oh, they want to put others down to build themselves up sometimes. Like if you make fun of, so-and-so, then I don't know, you think you're better or something.
They do that because their identity is hidden, right?
Yeah, the internet for sure.
Right. In internet setting, and even in the mob setting, you just join the mob, and then it's like when you feel like you're in trouble, then you just disappear. Right. So think about those labels. They're not true, but just people are, but that drive people crazy and justify their violence, right?
Do we know why in Jewish society the Jewishness is passed through the mother? I understand. I never understood why. Do we know why?
You never know who the father is for sure, but you always know who the mother is.
That's right. That's what I've heard.
Exactly.
Amen to that. Amen to that. But at the same time, I think it's really the responsibility of mother who teaches religion to children. Do you agree?
Yeah, that was the way it was in my house. Oh, no, my father was a Roman Catholic, but he didn't believe him. So it was my mother who was a Protestant that made sure that I went to Sunday school and stuff like that.
Okay. Right. But more often than not, compared to fathers, mothers, they are more devout and devoted. Okay. Okay.
Well, just look at this group here. There's we're out. There's 3. Well, there's 4. Well, it's even, huh? Pretty even.
Yeah, today's unusual.
4 guys. 5
today's unusual. Okay. All right. So it's like on the internet, when somebody is labeled as bigot or it's like homophobia, then it's like people just go at them, right? Go at her or go at him. When in fact, it's like we better give them a chance to talk, right? Those labels and false accusations really blocks civilized conversation. And if you really think about, Acts of the Apostles, that mob attack ends when Paul is under whose care?
The Romans.
The Romans. Yeah.
Right. And not the violence anymore, but the debate and discussion or defense happens where? Not in outside, but in the court. In the court.
Well, he has to tell people that he's a Roman citizen. Otherwise, he probably would have been dead right then.
Oh, yes, definitely. That is very handy.
He just speaks, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And do you remember how many identities that he has, Paul? Remember?
Jeez.
He's a Jew and
A Pharisee.
Pharisee, a Roman citizen, right? Right? A Christian, which is most important identity for him, right? And he's a citizen of not a small city. Remember, which city?
Greek.
Somewhere in Greek.
Celsius or something like that.
Tarsus. Yeah, right. Tarsus. So he has many identities. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts or comments?
I think all of us have many identities, you know.
Yes, we all have many identities.
Where we're from, but there's a lot of other things, you know. It's where you went to school, or who you married, or who's your friend, or
Right. Good.
Well, one of the first things people always want to know if you're working is what kind of work you do, and that identifies you right there. You know, first off.
Right.
That's always almost one of the first questions.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm retired. Well, what kind of work did you used to do? Who cares?
That's right.
You know, I was just thinking there's two groups, right? There's the mob mentality, and if there's a mob of people that have this, I mean, it could be like at a football game or something. You get all the 49ers together, and they're going to beat up on the other team's people if there's not enough of them. And you see that in mob mentality takes event. And then the other thing is, like on the internet, I used to go on the internet a lot, and there's always these people that were just so rude that it's not worth it. I stopped doing it, you know. So you got individuals who can hide behind their anonymity,
right,
and be horrible people, and then there's people that can be horrible people as part of a group. So
right.
We're just we have to find some way to be saved out of that and be changed. And
that's right. Yeah, very good point, because you know we human beings, as human beings, we are very tribal. That's why we love sports, because it makes so clear that who is on which side.
Yeah,
pick your team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are so tribal. We need to accept that. We need to accept that, right? But then it's like we need to be at the same time be mindful that we shouldn't be destructive or violent to others. You know, so tribalism, especially sports, it is a evolution of human psyche, from very destructive and killing, you know, tribal war, to very civilized form of competition. Do you understand what I'm saying?
And then we have countries, you know, trying to overtake countries still and fighting, you know, dropping bombs on each other. And
that's right. We just cannot escape from that, like, human instinct. Okay. All right. Okay. I have last thing want to say. Remember, before Paul goes to Jerusalem, and disciples tell him, don't go. Right? Remember? Let's turn to chapter 20.
Yeah.
Chapter 20, verses 22 through 24. Penny, do you have a Bible?
I do.
Please. Chapter 20, verses 22 through 24.
Okay, chapter 20, 22 to 24. 17, 22. And see, now I go bound in the spirit to Jerusalem, not knowing the things that will happen to me there, except that the Holy Spirit testifies in every city, saying that chains and tribulations await me. But none of these things move me, nor do I count my life dear to myself, so that I may finish my race with joy and the ministry which I received from the Lord Jesus to testify to the gospel of the grace of God.
I thank you. Yeah. So this is the verse of my life.
The race of joy.
Yeah. So knowing that there will be persecutions, but he goes there anyway. Yeah. Now I think back, it's like, I don't live that life. But this is really Christian. Yeah. So you know what's going to happen to you when you follow Jesus. There will be persecution. There will be suffering. But you go there because God is calling you to go. Mm-hmm. And you know, so we talked about, you know, the way, why we call Christian movement the way, because when the Lord, we meet people, we face challenges, difficulties, persecutions, but at the same time we experience God, right? Just as Paul or Saul, on his way to Damascus, he meets who? In a bright light.
God.
Jesus,
right?
Well, Jesus, yeah.
And he is completely transformed. Yeah, he's completely transformed. Yeah. So this way is challenging, difficult, but at the same time, it's exciting because you don't know what to expect when you follow Jesus. So there is more gain than losing, I guess. So I hope you all join this, you know, journey together and continue to journey together as we follow Jesus. Okay, all right. Okay, can I invite somebody? David, can you pray? Is it okay with you, sir?
Dear Lord, we thank you so very much for this time that we can be together and share our journeys and our insights and put them all on your table and present these things to you. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll see you next Tuesday. Next Tuesday will be our last session with me. Okay, so please come. Okay. All right, I will see you. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Have a great week, you guys.